Range is 0.1. We're standing by for contact. And once you get the contact and please deactivate. Once you confirm contact, please deactivate PU-BPS. Copy.
Contact and capture. Docking confirmed at 8:29 a.m. Central Time. Nyoka has been a long time coming, but has now pulled into port at the International Space Station.
Congratulations. That was not an easy docking. We have deactivated the manual control mode. Copy.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
We are off the pad and on our way to space once again with successful liftoff from Rocket Lab Launch Complex 1. Right now, Electron is travelling at over 500 kilometres an hour and is passing 3 kilometres in altitude. Very soon, Electron will approach max Q, or maximum dynamic pressure, that moment when forces are at their greatest on the launch vehicle. Let's listen in for the call from Mission Control that Electron has passed that phase.
Vehicle is supersonic. Approaching max Q. Cleared max Q.
There's the call out. Electron has successfully passed through max Q. Propulsion is continuing nominally on the first stage as we approach the next event in Electron's ascent.
Altitude is 30 kilometers, speed is 1.3 kilometers per second.
AOS Chatham Station.
First up, the 9 Rutherford engines will throttle down before shutting off completely, otherwise known as main engine cutoff or MECO. Shortly afterward, we'll see separation of the first and second stages, followed quickly by ignition of the single Rutherford engine on Electron's second stage.
15 seconds to go.
MECO confirms.
As you've seen, we've had a successful MECO, stage separation and second stage engine ignition. Next we'll be coming up on fairing separation. This is when the two halves of Electron's fairing separate and fall away in preparation for payload deployment.
Fairing jettison succeeded.
And there it is, you saw a flash of it on your screen. The fairing has separated, clearing the way for payload deployment coming up in approximately 50 minutes from now. Meanwhile, stage 2 is continuing well to orbit, carrying the kick stage and the monolith satellite.
Guidance is nominal, altitude is 140 kilometers. We are flying with 3 kilometers per second.
And we are looking at a healthy stage 2 burn at a few minutes and 4 minutes and 5 seconds into the mission. At an altitude of about 10,000 plus kilometers and a velocity of over 165, Electron continues nominally.
Stage 2 propulsion holding nominal.
RCS is damping out roll as well. We've got a little bit of torque coming in from the engine, which is to be expected. And so every so often the RCS fires just to dampen that out. Forms little saw waves on my screen. It's pretty nice.
Space is looking beautiful this evening as our 21st Electron launch has successfully left the pad. We're in the middle of our stage 2 burn, taking us to an elliptical orbit, after which the kick stage will separate in preparation for payload deployment. All systems continue to look nominal.
Now we've throttled down the engine, still looking pretty good.
So for those of you just joining us on our 21st mission, you will have heard from Mission Control that everything is continuing nominally during our second stage burn. Ahead of kick stage separation is the battery hot swap, coming up in about a minute. On our way to orbit, we are travelling at a speed of over 13,000 kilometres with an altitude of over 200.
Battery discharge nominal, approaching hot swap in roughly 30 seconds.
Now for one of the events of the launch events unique to Electron, the battery jettison. The fuel pumps in Electron's Rutherford engines are powered by batteries, but once those batteries are depleted, it's just added weight that we don't need to carry all the way to orbit. So we swap out the depleted batteries for a fresh new one to keep Electron's second stage going all the way. We call this maneuver battery hot swap, and it's coming up next.
Confirmed.
And there it goes. You will have just seen it falling away, meaning that battery hot swap has been completed. Around 2.5 minutes to go until the kick stage separates, setting us up for payload deployment later in the hour. What we're looking at on your screen there is the glowing hot vacuum optimized nozzle for the Rutherford engine on Electron's second stage. It's the same base engine that we use 9 of on the first stage to do most of the heavy lifting. But when we're in space, we only need one. The vacuum optimized nozzle extension allows us to match the pressure of the environment, unlocking some 5,800 pounds of thrust.
HVB battery discharged holding nominal.
Electron's second stage is now approaching SECO, or second engine cutoff. Much like main engine cutoff, the stage 2 Rutherford will throttle down before the kick stage separates ahead of payload deployment. We are now 8 minutes and 13 seconds into flight, and everything is looking great for payload deployment in approximately 45 minutes.
Guidance is in terminal, 20 seconds remaining.
Stage 2 shutdown.
Stage 3 separate.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage Vulcain. Allumage UAP, décollage.
Maneuvers ongoing.
So impressive.
Remettre à bord nominaux.
Yes, a little about myself. So I'm not, professionally in the space industry. I was always interested in space growing up, and I was also interested in computers. So whenever the internet took off, uh, careers along that path developed. And I ended up going into working for internet service provider, a website provider, and then eventually working at Compaq, HP, and now I work at Anaplan, a software company in California. And space has always been an interest for me, but it's become a lot more exciting since SpaceX has been launching so much into space, and you see the entry of Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, Intuitive Machines, Astrobotics, and dozens of other companies. And to kind of explore that interest, I created the North Houston Space Society, which is a chapter of the National Space Society. We have monthly meetings where we try to educate the local community about space. In 2019, I started this project to interview a person a day to the end of 2024, which is the year that we're currently planning to have astronauts on the moon. And I attend space events and watch videos like this channel to learn more about space. What is Countdown to the Moon? Well, in late 2019, Jim Bridenstine, the NASA administrator, was really focused on trying to get us to the moon in 2024. And he hired Doug Laverio to be the associate administrator for human exploration operations. And Doug, at the Artemis Day event that they had about the SLS core stage, he had a lapel pin with the number of days to the end of 2024. And he talked about highlighting a NASA employee each day till the end of 2024 that was helping to push us towards getting to the moon. And every day he would update that pin to update with the latest time till the end of 2024. And I thought it was a really cool idea, but I thought, hey, wouldn't it be neat to actually go and interview everyday people? And that's how the project got started. At the time, I should say, I had been working at home for the previous 2 years, and I realized that I wasn't seeing people outside my household for weeks at a time. And one of my first rules was that I was going to do all the interviews in person, and I was planning to talk to people at Starbucks, at the mall, on the streets, wherever I happened to be. And that worked beautifully up until March of 2020, whenever we started having COVID lockdowns, and I had to go to also doing virtual interviews. So what is my goal with this project? Well, my goals with this project have been shifting and changing over time. At the very beginning, it was really more of a personal growth type goal, just trying to get out there and talk to people individually, learn about what other people think about space, and just getting over shyness and becoming more comfortable just talking to people, and maybe meeting a lot of good friends, future friends along the way. But as I've gotten into the project, I've kind of tacked on some additional goals to that of trying to understand how people think about the future of humanity, what they see as our challenges and our place in the universe, and trying to understand how they process information, where they get it from, how that affects society. And then a longer term kind of vision of trying to capture this moment before space travel becomes really a commonplace thing and sort of recedes back into the collective background, where right now we have this tension between the people that see a lot of potential in space travel and think it's just around the corner and are working to develop it, and people who think that it's fantasy and that it'll never amount to anything, and that, you know, we've been promising this since the 1960s, and look at what the last 50 years have been like. uh, right now is, you know, there's really kind of like this intriguing sort of dialogue and kind of exchange going on between these two camps, that whenever Starship is flying 3 times a day and we have hundreds of them, and, you know, Blue Origin is flying several times a day, and you start having people walking on the moon and around the moon on a regular basis, and then maybe permanently, and you start sending people off to Mars, and, you know, you really start seeing a push for kind of uh, extracting resources in these places, using it on site, and eventually start having little bitty camps, and maybe eventually full-blown settlements. When that happens, there won't be a debate about whether or not this is real, because everybody will know it, see it, and we'll just assume that it was always going to happen. But at this moment in time, we have this struggle between what does the future look like. And it's very possible that this vision that I just told you about doesn't come about in the next few years. You know, that we don't, we it stalls out and we retreat back. But I'm very much an optimist. I very much believe that it is something that is inevitable to happen, and I really uh, enjoy kind of exploring this with other people. Why is this project important to me? So this project is kind of, you know, it, it's important to me for many different reasons. One is I get a lot of joy out of talking to people about their views of the world and the future, and kind of seeing, you know, do they see humanity as forever being earthbound, or is their vision much, much bigger than that? But also, I mean, on a more kind of fundamental level, I've consistently interviewed a person every single day since I started the project in December 2019. And I have been known for starting lots of projects that never make it to the end. And I see this as one project that I have a good chance of actually consistently pursuing and making it all the way through the end of 2024, having conducted an interview every day. So I think that'd be a very amazing thing to achieve just from a personal growth and confidence level. The importance of Artemis. For the past 50 years, humanity has been really, the human space exploration program has been really stuck in low Earth orbit. And while weightlessness offers an intriguing environment to do experiments, I think what we could learn from weightlessness is far less than what we could learn by exploring a planetary body like the moon. On the moon, there are, I'm not sure what we're going to find. We've been observing the moon through orbital satellites, through rock samples that we've gotten back, through rovers and probes that have landed on the moon. But ultimately, whenever we start exploring the moon in mass and in detail and on site, I think it's going to really open our eyes up to many new things that it's really hard to predict at this point. And I'm really excited to see that. I think Artemis is also very important from another standpoint. There are some people that have doubts about us actually going to the moon. I've interviewed a couple of them, and they point to the quality of the videos. Of course, now we're going to be able to go to the moon with 8K real time, 360-degree immersive, 3D video if we choose, and people will feel that they're right there along beside the astronauts exploring the moon too. And so maybe whenever we send 2 people to the moon, we're able to send a few billion people virtually, and that's going to be an exciting time. But I think a lot of people doubt that we went to the moon from a different perspective. They're like, if we actually went to the moon, why did we stop? And by going back, we're going to, um, continue the story. And I think people will feel a lot more confident that we really do have the capability of going to the moon. And if we do, then we did. So that's going to be exciting. So really happy to see us finally going back. One thing I would like to do is appeal to all of your readers. One thing that I'd like to do is appeal to all of your listeners to schedule a countdown to the moon interview session. I have over 1,200 and some odd videos and interviews that I need to do over the next 3.5 years. And I really could use as much help as I could get. So if you could, please go to countdowntothemoon.org, click on the Let Me Interview You, and there it tells you a little bit about the project. And there's a link to a calendar where you can sign up for a day that works for you. Well, thank you so much for letting me be a part of your first show. And I look forward to seeing all the episodes that you produce. Thank you.